welcome to the 4th video in our barred owl painting project. I hope you guys have enjoyed this as much as I have. It's a beautiful day out here. I'm ready to get inside, get to work. Let's do it. Alrighty, so before I jump into working on this owl here, I'm thinking I want to do something else with this background. And I just feel like it needs some more drama, it needs some, depth, needs some variation, and right now it seems pretty flat and kind of, if you look at it, it's a little bit patchy in these spots where I've gotten, some of that canvas shining through, and it looks unfinished in this background. So I'm gonna work on that first, and for this I'm gonna be using probably this brush here, if it's gonna work for me. If not, I'll go down a size to like this one, just a bigger brush that we can use to block in more of this. And I think I'm gonna have the background actually, as I'm doing this, kind of reflect how we decided that our light source was going to be. So we said our light source was going to be up in this upper right hand corner. So I think this side of the background is going to be lighter, and then I'll kind of make it gradient down to like a darker color down here. So we'll see how that goes. So what I'm going to do first of all is just wipe my brush down, and then let's grab some of this blue here and some burnt umber. Just a nice, again, that nice dark tone. And let's get some white in there. There we go. Now I'm gonna get a little bit of this burnt sienna, warm it up a little bit. Man, I do that a lot, it just turns it brown. I don't need that much, so we'll go back with some blue, gray it back down. There we go. That's looking like a nice color there. Maybe a little bit too cold now, but I'm just gonna keep playing with it, lightening it up. Maybe a little bit of yellow, not much. It'll want to go green if I add too much yellow, because I've got that blue mixed in. So I'll keep playing with it, keep adjusting it until I get a nice color that I think is going to be a good color for my light source side of the background. So yeah, ooh, I like that right there. I do like that. Okay, so back on the canvas, let's block some of this in over here. And I'm just gonna, since we have a pretty similar color underneath it, it's gonna be easier to cover that canvas quickly. There we go. I might mix in a little more water with that. It seems a little dry. But yeah, let's grab some more of the paint. There we go. All right, so just filling this in, heading down this right side. I don't want to get too close to my owl yet, because that's going to take a little more precision. I don't cover anything up there. So I'll just do just some shorter strokes over here. And reload my paint, and let's right there. There we go. All right. So this color is definitely darker, but it will be lighter compared to the next color that we're going to be mixing to blend in with this. So let's go on top of his head a little bit. There we go. There we go. All right. So now we're going to start transitioning into a darker tone. So let's get some more blue and burnt umber. There we go. Let's just see what that looks like down here. It's pretty dark tone. Pretty similar to that. So I might go with something a little bit warmer. So a little more burnt sienna, so we can contrast it well against his body, because I don't want a tone that's too similar to that. But it's not looking bad right there, so let's paint that in. We're just gonna fill this in and see what happens. I really don't have much of a plan for this. I just knew I wanted some more depth, some more variation in the background. So let's play with it. I'm gonna mix some more of that color up, maybe something a little darker. And while my paint's wet on the canvas, it's really nice, especially with, this is something that oil painters have the luxury of, is that, you know, paint stays wet on the canvas for a long time. So for me, if I work quickly enough, I can keep my paint wet on the canvas and blend it there. I'm gonna just keep mixing up some dark color, keep mixing it in along this side. And this might need a second coat as I'm looking at it, but for now, it's not bad. It's helping me understand some of the light source and the light direction as it affects the atmosphere around him. But yeah, boy, this looks, in the camera there's a big sheen on it. And as this dries, hopefully you'll see this sheen on this side of the canvas go away. And as I'm looking at it, I'm probably going to do a second layer of that. But today is actually not about the background. Today is about the details of this owl getting that all cranked out. So I am going to, when I'm looking at this side needs more light. So let's just do that real quick. I'm going to mix some white, burnt sienna, mix that in with my other color. I'm just gonna get plenty of it. The thing is, when you're trying to keep your paint wet on the canvas so that it's, you know, mixable and blendable on the canvas, you want more paint than water, and so just getting plenty of paint is a good thing, because you can just blend it and it'll stay wet for a while. Okay, so let me start blending this in over here. And that's a good color right there. So then I'm gonna just kind of lighten up my strokes. Okay. Now, that's about where I want my light to go. Now I just want it to blend. So I'm gonna take a paper towel and just kind of wipe off the paint so it's dry. And then I'll start blending it. Kind of utilizing the tooth of the canvas so that it's just kind of skipping along those little edges. Now you're seeing I might be kind of blurring the sides of my owl, just the edges of him against the background. That's okay, because we're gonna refine the rest of that today. Okay, I do like that, and he definitely looks like a lot more like he's in an atmosphere where his the light's shining on him from this direction that way. So pretty good. I'm gonna wash out this brush and just think about what we want to do next. You know what, I'm gonna make this corner even lighter. I can't help myself, so I'm just gonna pick up some white paint. Since this is wet, I'm gonna just stick some light paint on there, some of this white, kind of splatter it on there, and then just take it and blend it out. And I'm not gonna take it too far, because I don't wanna just keep making this whole side lighter and lighter, but I do want that corner to be like a nice light source. There we go. Happy with that now. Yeah, subtle differences. And I have to struggle sometimes to just be satisfied with where things are at and move on, which is what I need to do right now. Okay. To make myself do it, I will be switching brushes. And this is a little liner brush that I'll be using, and we're gonna start working on his face again and keep going back down. This is kind of the pattern we'll take every time to finish him out, just working in layers. So let's get a little closer here and start thinking about how we're gonna approach this. Now, I think I'm going to, these bars that kind of go this direction around his eyes need to be darker. So I'm gonna mix up a nice kind of dark color over here with that blue and burnt umber. And you'll notice I just have the same colors as the other day, as the rest of this project, just the same 5 colors. The goal is just to keep it nice and simple. And I don't want to go with, you know, like super dark, so I'm mixing in a little bit of this lighter tone that I have left over from my background, just to kind of bring up this black color. All right, so first thing, I think I'm gonna just like, let's kind of blend some stuff in his eyes here, because I feel like that line where I had my burnt sienna, that first of all got a little bit too harsh, so that's helping me a lot there. Okay, so we're gonna start refining some of these darker portions, where I already see that there's darker points. I'm just going to be making them more dramatic. So just gonna start working around his eye first. And you know, I'm not filling in everything, of course, but it's a little bit like picking and choosing the points where you're like, oh, that's gonna be the darkest spot for me. So let's work it around, and it might look a little awkward at first, but I mean, like, you're just gonna start filling in the darkest points first of all. And so even when there's like a big crack, like a big gap in the feathers here, I just add just a couple little dots. Yeah, and that's what today's all about, are these details that just bring them to life. Okay, keep in mind again your feather direction here. Keep an eye on your reference pictures. And yeah, ooh. There we go. I like that. Okay, so let me add a couple gaps in these feathers here. Just kind of, you know, we're just kind of accentuating the gaps in between these feathers where they were dark before, but now we just want them to be darker and more dramatic, more visible, more contrast, all of that. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to work in this ring around his face, just kind of giving it that extra level of detail, making it blend into the other sides of his head around that ring. There we go. All right. I'm gonna fill in some spots here around his beak, and I might refine the shape of his beak this way a little bit too, so that it's, you know, a little bit skinnier. I feel like it got a little fat, so I'll just kind of bring it in on this side, bring it in on this side. There we go. That looks pretty good. All right, so now you can see the big difference that we have now between this side of his face and this side side's gonna be even darker since it's on the shadow. So let's start filling this side in. And he does have these kind of dark spots right here and right here on either side, right above. Those light portions right here and here, he's got these like kind of darker spots around them where it kind of, that's an extra layer of those feathers. Don't get too bogged down in one spot, just keep it moving. That's the trick. You just gotta not worry too much about it, because if you do, you're just gonna get stuck in one spot and then overwork it, and it's gonna be very difficult to go back. It can be done, but that's just gonna make this not a very efficient work. And I wouldn't say that I'm a very efficient painter. I kind of I can be a little bit scattered. I'll work here, I'll work over there, but there is a point when you need to focus and make a plan, stick to your plan, and then you can evaluate afterwards. So keep blocking in these little dark portions of his face. And I do like how there's a little bit of the burnt sienna of our very first layer that's still shining through in a couple spots. I don't know if you can see, but there we go. All right. I'll go over here. This part in here. There we go. All right. Let's call that good, and we're gonna be adding light back into this also, because remember how I mentioned that we've got light, like kind of like a mid-tone to start off with, and then we'll kind of add the darks and the lights around that. Right now we're doing those darks, and then we'll bring in the lights, and it's really gonna start standing out really well. Okay, so I'm gonna add a couple of these feathers around his head on the top here. Kind of go more this direction. Here we go. Okay. Now, this color right here is very similar to this background color. So we're gonna be bringing this to a little bit more of a darker color overall, so that he stands out well from his background. And just bringing that darkness down here. There we go. And you can see how that contrast there, again, between him and the background comes back. That's going to be pretty good. All right, so now gonna keep working downwards. Oh, I was gonna also add his nostrils. He's got a nostril right here, a little nostril right there. Nothing too big, but just a detail. Okay, let us keep moving on down his body with our dark color here. So wherever I see in my reference pictures where he's got some darkness, that's where I'm gonna put it. So he's got a couple dark patches in here. Just there we go. This is all about just small strokes in very strategic places, and using your reference pictures to kind of guide where those are going. So build up all of those layers, and then we'll be done. It's very important when you're doing an animal to pay attention. Again, I can't stress this enough, to the direction that the feathers or the hairs or the scales or whatever you're doing, wherever those are going, the directions of those strokes. So it's good to study a lot of pictures and find out kind of how everything's layered up. Now, for this portion of his chest feathers here, the strokes have been going horizontally here, but like really the feathers are all still going the same direction. These feathers are just shorter than these feathers over here. So they stop sooner, and so that's why you get more horizontal lines. So we'll still be adding a couple, like we'll just start building in a little bit of just short vertical lines in here with our dark. It's good to just have some sound effects. Sometimes when you're painting, you just whatever your brush strokes sound like. I know a lot of people who do that. You're painting, you gotta make sound effects. And like, alright. Just taking our time, building it up. Now, just keep moving down. And I'm and again, where I'm putting these darks are where I already had darks on my underlayer and on my block in and subsequent layer to that. So I'm not just like randomly putting darks in random places. I'm very focused on putting it in where I already have it, so that we're staying consistent and we're building up layers. We're not changing things fundamentally, we're just building up the layers to be stronger. Okay? So I'm gonna get a little bit of like a brown mid-tone here and start filling in a little bit right in this zone where we just need a little more mid, because I feel like we got too much white and too much black, and we just need a little more of that mid-tone. Alright. Keep working in this zone here. Just playing back and forth between the lights and the darks until I get a good blend of that. That brings him up to a level that I'm happy with. Alright. Okay, so I just took a second and switched up some of the lights. So hopefully we'll get not so much glare on this wet paint that I keep painting down here. So hey, let's go down, keep working on this portion of his feathers. So before I do, actually, I've been looking at this, and these feathers over here, they need just to be a little bit more warm. They just do. They're just, this whole thing is a little bit turning into I don't want it to be so black and white. So I'm gonna take this brush right here, and we're gonna do a thing called a wash, just a really nice wash. So we'll go over here to my palette, and I'm gonna get some burnt sienna, put it down here. I don't need too much, and then I'm gonna just dip my brush in some water and make just this really, really watery mix of burnt sienna. Okay? So it's really, really transparent. So I'll go head back over to my canvas, and we're just gonna do this wash on this portion of his wing feathers. Trying to be careful not to go too far over the lines. Okay. And yeah, here we go. Now we're gonna be adding some life back into him. Now, I'm gonna add some of this wash also to the dark lines here on his chest feathers. Yeah, and I might even just add some in here. Just kind of brush in a couple spots where he needs some life. Okay. Once that dries, it's gonna look really nice. He's gonna have some more warmth in him and just overall look more alive. All right, we'll keep working on top of that. But until that dries for a second, let's actually go back to his face. And I'm gonna start building up the lights on here. So let's zoom in a little bit here and let's get to work in this portion. So I'm gonna mix up some white here with my burnt sienna and a little bit of yellow, because this is gonna be pretty bright color, and then some burnt umber just to kind of bring it back down. There we go. A little more water, let it flow. All right. Now again, I'm flattening out my brush just like I did the other day, just so I can get that nice point, that nice chisel tip on my brush. Let's head back over here and let's start with this portion here. Now, you can see this extra layer of brightness, and this is going to be kind of how we'll show that the sun's hitting this side of his face. And making sure that we're leaving gaps. You know, the areas that we added our black or the dark colors, we're leaving those zones. There we go. There we go. And this is all about working in the portions, just like we were saying that, you know, the portions that were dark, we just made them darker. Now these parts, when they're light, we're just gonna make them a little bit lighter and more detailed. So just real small strokes here. Sometimes I'm just making little dots. You can always use your finger, rub out a part, or a couple spots you don't like, or they're too bright. There we go. Yeah. Alright, so see, I'm only working in the spots that I know are in my light zones. And I'm not even, and I'm leaving the mid-tone in between, so that we get just this nice depth. Because you gotta have a little bit of every zone, every like shade showing still. Okay. A couple spots around there. And this up just a little bit more. Okay, so I'm gonna work in this part here, and I'm gonna actually mix my color even a little bit brighter, a little more white, and just a touch more yellow for this side of his head here where the light's just smacking it. There we go. Like that. Now, I'm also going to mix in a little bit of burnt sienna in with this mix to kind of add a secondary light. So this is the lightest part right along the side of his head, and then there's going to be kind of this secondary glow right there after that light portion. That's going to be more of like a orange tone, that burnt sienna. Just rubbing that in there. There we go. This is just gonna really make him look like the sun is just hitting him. Give him that nice lit quality to him. See how I'm just making that edge nice and crisp, and I don't want to bring this light too far over here, but just a little tiny bit along the top. And a couple of these individual ones. Okey-dokey. A little bit here on his beak, just because, nicely, because I feel like it. Alright, now let's bring this light right in here. This is just adding this warmth in here is going to really, really make him look like the sun is just hitting him real nicely. Alright, so let's move down and add kind of a light color back in to his chest feathers here. And remember how these ones are going to be, I'm going to make just kind of these groups of lighter vertical marks. So you'll see how it's going to go like this, and then I'm just adding another group and another group, and I'm mostly working in the zones that are already light, and I'm leaving the darks mostly alone, unless I'm kind of cutting through them a little bit. That's okay. But yeah, you see these little short groups of vertical strokes are going to be just what these feathers need, just what they look like. This is, if this was one of my, big full paintings, this would, like this stage of the whole thing could take, hours and hours and hours, and I'm trying to move pretty quickly here, but still, like this might be the longest video of the series. That's okay. This is the most in-depth part of it, the whole process, so you gotta at least do it some justice. So just short vertical sections, or I guess vertical brush strokes making horizontal sections. And I'm using this nice warm tone from the sun. This with, we got some burnt sienna and yellow in there, bringing in that sunlight quality. All right, so now we're gonna get into some of these longer feathers over here, where we're getting a little bit hairier with it on these vertical ones. And these are the bars of our barred owl, so making sure we've got big sections of dark and light is going to be really important here, so we can stay anatomically accurate. And you can see how I need there to be plenty of water in with my mix. Not too much of paint, but I just need it to flow off this liner brush nice and freely, so I'm not getting a lot of skipping going on. Okay, now that some of these hairs are going to overlap onto that dark, and there's kind of no shortcut to making this. You just kind of got to work quickly and and just stroke after stroke after stroke. Okay. And some of these, this is basically, this zone right here is kind of his armpit, because these are where his wing feathers are coming out. So there's a little bit more, as I'm looking at these reference pictures, there's a little more of this fluffy stuff comes out here. And if I want, I could even get some paint on there and then just kind of blend it a little bit, and it's gonna just kind of give the appearance like this really fluffy feather quality. Okay. Move down a little bit here. these, I'm gonna make sure that I'm going with the direction of the feathers here. And I'm not working too far over into this shadow zone of his chest feathers. I just want to mostly work on the spot where I know the light is hitting it from the sun. There we go. Just building up the layers and leaving gaps in between so that there's some depth to his feathers. Okay, now I might just take some of these and just kind of blend them through this way. Just because I mean, like these ones on his chest, they're not really hairy looking. There's kind of these fluffy areas, but you really want, these ones are a little more smooth overall. So kind of get it. There's a balance between painting individual hairs and then getting into, you know, kind of blending it through. So we've got some like a nice smooth quality. Okay, let's look at kind of this, how this whole thing's coming along. Not bad. Now these 3 bars are a little bit, you know, a little bit too even for me. They're like a nice pattern, so I'll probably, let's work on adding in some darks back in and adjusting a little bit. That's kind of what this process just is doing all the time, is just adjusting things. Paint something, adjust it. So let's get some of these zones put back in. Or let's make this one, let's give this one a secondary. Short, dark. Blend that in a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna darken this highlight color a little bit so that this bar is not so bright. Just because we want to, again, reinforce the three-dimensionality, the roundness of our form. So this one will not be so bright looking. There we go. Okay. Not bad, not bad. Sometimes you just gotta do it and then move on. Okay. So I think that's what I might do. Okay, so now I'm going to actually, I put on this nice warm wash, and I'm going to do a lighter wash too. So I might just take this color I made right here, mix in a little more burnt sienna with it. Yeah, just like that, and then kind of make a little bit of a wash out of that. So add some water to it. I'll see what this looks like as a wash, because I feel like I want this to definitely look like the sun is hitting it, and I feel like I can add darks back in, but I want there to start off with this nice, more three-dimensional quality where the front of it, where the light's hitting it, is nice and bright. Okay, so I'll do that, and then let's take a paper towel. We can just kind of dab it a little bit so we don't get so much. Sometimes it's just a little too extreme. Okay, so let's start. Once this starts drying, we'll add in some dark lines to reinforce those strong, long wing feathers and the gaps in between them. So again, going back to a real dark color. Okay. And while this is still a little bit wet, I'm gonna go down here and let's just reinforce some of these dark zones in here. Okay, bringing it on down, and I'm gonna strengthen this shadow side of him. Just real short, just a little bit of a dry brush here, just rubbing it back and forth, shading it. You could use a bigger brush for this, but I'm not right now. All right. Yeah, that's a nice dark shadow now. Now we're building up that three-dimensionality. There's no shortcuts. You gotta just see what needs done, and then do it, and see the next thing that needs to be done, and then go and do that. That's kind of what this whole step is about. Okay, so I'm gonna add a couple shadows here. So with this dark I've got, we're gonna be adding in some shadows underneath a few of these feathers. So on this dark side, just nice long strokes off the edge here, and I might blend it in a couple spots. And then this is also going to be a shadowed portion, because this is, again, like his armpit right in there. I don't know, is it an armpit, or I guess it's a wing pit technically. We'll get technical with it. Yeah, let's not insult the bird while we're painting it. All right. Now I'm just painting these gaps in between his feathers, making them stronger, reinforcing their shape, and giving them a shadow. Again, using my finger to kind of blend things out when I need to. Here we go. Look at that. Okay. Now these are not necessarily big long ones up here. These are more like the long ones. And so I'm kind of defining these sections, and then I'll break it up into the smaller feathers later. But yeah, look at that. Look at that. Now we're getting somewhere with these. I'm not too worried about this. I mean, if this was like a competition painting, it'd be one thing, and I'd probably spend a lot of time, you know, I'd count these feathers, make sure I get the right number, or at least, you know, I mean, like, there's some that are obviously out of view, but this is just a painting for fun, and so we're just gonna treat it like that. So, and basically we could just keep working on this layer after layer, adding in these warm tones in here, and then keep doing this till we think we're done. Guys, this is it. We did it. We're done. Slapped a little signature on there, and we're finished. We did it. This was a fun painting. I think it was like 2.5 hours of work, if that. Just cranked it out. This has been so much fun. Hopefully you've enjoyed seeing the painting process and have gotten some inspiration to do your own paintings, or maybe you followed along and did this painting with me. Either way, Shoot me your questions, anything you got. I'd love to see any work that you guys have done. Yeah, so stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for joining me on this little painting adventure. See ya. God bless.